This meeting is being recorded.
All right, Councilmember, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
So can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. I am a long-term resident, lifelong resident of the 7th Council District. I'm raising my family here. I attended elementary school in the neighborhood at St. Veronica, graduated from Little Flower High School for Girls, and I have my undergrad and grad degrees from Lincoln University. I've always worked in the nonprofit sector, at least early on in my professional career, where I met Councilwoman Sanchez and decided to come to work for city government in 2008 during her first term as her chief of staff. I served as her chief of staff for about 12 years, and my priorities here in the office during my time as her chief of staff were really around organizing the community and making sure that they were educated about the services that government had available for them. After I left Councilwoman Sanchez's office, I went back to work in a nonprofit organization in the Hunting Park community, which is where I was raised as a young person and attending school. Elementary and high school. I worked at Esperanza on the ground at folks' doors, listening to the concerns that they had and how they wanted to improve their quality of life. And then I was presented with the opportunity of coming here, running in the special election and returning in the capacity that I'm in now.
So what made you decide, okay, I've been on a council staff, I've done all these other things. What made you want to be the council person? Because that's I feel like it's kind of like night and day in a way, just based on the conversations we have with staffers and things. What made you want to hold that office?
What made me want to hold the office? I think that really understanding that community voices needed to always be at the forefront of everything that we do as a government. I worked with a team of people, both here during my time in council and at Esperanza, who really understood the importance of community engagement. And oftentimes in that capacity, I heard, I want to be able to make my voice heard more often. I want to be the priority. I want decisions to be made after my voice was heard at the table. And so, understanding both sides of how government works and understanding how the need of community residents made me feel like, because I understand them, I'm the best person for this. And so, Councilwoman Sanchez has always had a 2023 plan since 2007. She knew that in 2023, she wanted to move to the next level. What was never sure was who would replace her. And so when I was presented with that opportunity, I thought, who better than me, who was there, who understands the district, who lives in the district, understands the challenges that community residents who live there experience every day, who better than me to be able to serve in this capacity.
So even though you've had extensive preparation for this role, having worked in city council and having worked on the outside, seeing what the issues are, coming into the role, how do you prepare for it? What do you do to say, okay, I'm going to be as effective as possible as soon as possible?
I think that you're never fully prepared, right? I think that every part of the district has is unique and has a very specific need, but they also have certain little pieces that are the same. And so I think across the board, community residents just want a better quality of life. And in order to be able to start providing them with a better quality of life, you need to have relationships. And that is what I have, right? I have relationships in government offices that will be able to quickly impact and change what is happening on the block. And so I just made it a point to reach out to my contacts and to those partners in city government and talk to them about what some of those challenges are that community residents have continued to voice and asked for their support very early on. And so my preparation was more along the lines of making sure that I reestablished those relationships, that I connected with those partners in government to help them understand what I wanted to do immediately coming in.
And what are your top priorities coming in the office?
Improving the quality of life right now is number one, right? Making sure that Blocks are safe to walk on, that they're lit appropriately, that that students in our community have access to quality education, that their structures, the building structure is safe, a safe place for them to come learn in, that the teachers that are in those spaces feel like it is safe for them to come to work, and that they're able to receive the necessary resources to provide that child with a successful academic journey. And then development, right? There's parts of the district in the 7th that are heavily developed, and there are parts that don't have attention. And so ensuring that community residents understand that I am here to ensure that while development is very necessary in the 7th Council District, that it doesn't have to mean that their identity, their culture, and their it is not respected, right? The identity and the history of the culture of the district and of the neighborhood is respected by developers. And so those are 3 of the things that I really want to prioritize from the very start.
So we are often mentioned the poorest big city in America. How do we start to tackle that poverty issue?
I think that the poverty conversation has always been a part of the conversation. It's always been a part of the work. Many in my district suffer from food insecurities. Many in my district suffer from lack of employment. And so generational wealth is not something that you see in the 7th Council District. And so it is a part of every conversation at every table that I sit in when I'm meeting with community stakeholders and residents. And ensuring that when I'm meeting with partners or government entities, that they understand that community's specific needs, right? We need affordable housing in the 7th Council District. That is specific, that is very, very important. Those that are coming to do development in that community to understand who they're building for, and what their economic situation is. Just making sure that I advocate consistently for the residents of the 7th Council District.
Okay, I'd like to bring Denise Clay Murray here on Talking Home.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us, Councilmember Lozada. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You mentioned that one of the problems that you see with development in the 7th District is that you have some places that are really, really developed and other places that have not been. How do you get developers to kind of go to the places that haven't been developed? And if so, I guess, do you apply tax breaks, or, how do we do that?
I think that there has to be a conversation. There has to be listening to one another. I think that developers don't know what they don't know, right? So I need to be able to get them to visit the 7th Council District, show them what some of the possibilities are. Actually, right before coming here, I was meeting with someone who talked about, the challenges that some developers have, the requirements that government puts in place in order for them to be able to build affordability like we need it to happen in the 7th Council District. And so I think ensuring that conversations of mutual respect happen, as well as showing them what the possibilities are in other areas of the district.
Okay, now, one of the issues that I'm sure you've probably heard a lot about is the issue with what is happening in Kensington, particularly as it pertains to the opioid crisis. During like the early days of the mayor's second term, there was talk about putting a center there that would allow addicts to go and, for want of a better way to put it, shoot up safely. And Councilwoman Quinona Sanchez vehemently opposed that. Are those same people talking to you about that now? And what do you think? I guess what would your response to that be?
I've been involved in the Kensington situation since the very beginning. When we got here in 2008, the underground, the tracks were where they kind of concentrated at. And I was part of the early on conversations about what do we need to do to make sure that those who are suffering from addiction receive the necessary resources, and what do we do about protecting community residents who are exposed to this situation. Safe consumption sites are absolutely necessary. And we need safe consumption sites. We don't need safe consumption or safe injection sites, whichever you prefer to call them. We don't need them to be in the 7th Council District. We have the responsibility to do whatever it is we need to do to break up the concentration in that community as it relates to the epidemic. So yes, those folks have reached out to me. I've been very honest with them about my opposition for a safe injection site in the 7th Council District. I believe that we need multiple safe injection sites, but they should not start in the 7th Council District because that community has been impacted for over 20 years with what is happening there now, and it has consistently gotten worse. I think that government has been government in the future will be responsible for the trauma that has been caused to the children and the families that live in that community. And what do we say to those families 20 years from now when those children can't be successful contributing citizens to our city because of the trauma that they experienced as a result of this epidemic? And so, I think that I have compassion for those who are suffering on our streets. I'm empathetic to them, but I think that we also need to focus a little bit of our attention, more so now than ever, to those who are living there, not necessarily because they have to live there, but because that is their community. That is where they were raised and where they are choosing to raise their families. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're there because they can't go anywhere else. And we shouldn't expect that of them. We shouldn't expect them to be the ones to move. We should expect us as a government to resolve what we've allowed to happen in that community.
Now, have you figured out what committees you're going to be on council, and how do they relate to what it is you hope to achieve in the 7th Councilmanic District?
I have asked about what committees I'm going to serve on. Everyone has asked me the same question. And at this moment, I'm still not sure what committees I will be on. However, I did ask, I was asked for what committees I was interested in. Naturally, I'd like to be in the Public Health Committee because of what is happening in Kensington. I'd like to be in the Public Safety Committee for the same reason. And not only the public safety, not only because of Kensington, because I think crime is affecting all of our city, but I have a very good relationship with many in the public safety world. And so I'd like to sit on committees where I would be able to have an impact because I understand what is happening in my district as it relates to crime. And education, right? I want to make sure that, like I said, if I am able to advocate and make those schools in my district better, I want to be able to do that at the committee level.
Okay. Now, what is it about your district that you think us as reporters get wrong? Because sure, we come and we cover the opioid crisis there, and we cover some things related to crime, but what is it about the 7th Councilmanic District that you think we get wrong, and how can we correct it?
I think oftentimes we tend to focus on all the negatives that is happening in the 7th Council District. The 7th Council District has commercial corridors that are made up of owner operators. They're business people from all walks of life, from every culture and every community, from different backgrounds, and they really change and impact positively those communities. I think that we don't talk enough about those small businesses who get up every day and who contribute economically to that neighborhood. In the Kensington community, I think we oftentimes focus on the person who, or the people who are suffering from addiction, as opposed to all of the great people that live there, who have lived there for generations, and who regardless of what is happening around them, they get up every day and they're good neighbors, and they're caring neighbors. You know, the block captains, the faith-based leaders, all who are always present in that community, who always want to bring cheer and support to that community. I think that oftentimes we don't report on those things. Many of our kids, even though they live within a walking distance of all of that is happening there, they end up to be very successful. They go on to higher education. We don't talk about those things often enough. And so I'd like to see more of that.
Okay, thank you. We're going back to my co-host, Larry McGlynn, and you're listening to Hall Monitor on WPPM.
All right, well, thank you very much. Councilmember, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.